Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to another podcast, another Tijara podcast episode. My name is Ali, and today I'm joined with the founder of PrimeTek Informatics, Chatai. Chatai, how are you?
Yeah, good, good. Thank you. Thank you for having me. How
Oh,
are you
no
doing?
problem. Good, good. Yeah, so to kick things off, tell us a little bit about PrimeTek Informatics. What was the inspiration? What is it all about?
The PrimeTek is a company. We are a UI component library vendor. We are known for products such as Prime Faces to begin with, which is a popular UI component suite for Java surfaces. And we also have like the spin-off projects that come out of Prime Faces, like Prime NG for Angular, Prime React for React, and lately Prime Vue for Vue. So we are, I mean, I can summarize the company as a UI component library vendor. That's our sole business, and it's a around 10-year-old company, and we provide open source UI component suites and offer paid add-ons as the business backend.
Nice, nice. So, what was the inspiration behind the naming? Was it Transformers Optimus Prime?
Well, due to copyright issues, I must say no.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's just the cool name, Prime.
Fair
The
enough.
prime time. The best,
Got it.
the,
Got it.
the top time. So things like that.
Nice, nice. So when you got started with PrimeTech, the company, and as well as this render library, what was your initial motivation, or what sparked this idea? How did you get into working on this project?
Well, it was actually a hobby project that I was living in London. I lived there for 2 years, and I get some issues with the work permits, and I had really long free time to work on, let's say, open source. It was a hobby project, and I was really interested in JSF. I used it since 2005 in my first job. Then I moved to UK, and there I was working with Apache MyFaces. There I was an open source contributor and later committer as well. And it was like a passion. There were some UI component libraries back then, like Rich Face and Nice Faces. And I thought maybe there's room for one more. Maybe I can create something better and more interesting for the people, for the open source community. And I started working on it day and night. It became a passion. It was a
Mhm.
hobby project to kill some time, but it became a passion. And then, interestingly, it became a product, and it became the foundation of a company as well. So, yeah, interesting story.
Nice. So, just to dig deeper on the hobby, so something must have sparked on the hobby side. Like, were you at work? I know. So at that point when you started PrimeTech, where were you working exactly?
I was back from the UK. I was back in Turkey.
I
I
see.
started the PrimeTech based on Prime Faces because I got back in 2011,
Hmm.
and in 2011, Prime Faces was getting some attention and traction, and we had some demand for some paid add-ons and services as well. That's where we created a company based around the Prime Faces. But it's the idea was, again, I really like working on the front end
Hmm.
because actually I see myself as a Java developer. I'm actually a full stack developer,
I
but
see.
my interest has shifted to front end because even in my college days, I was, for example, there was a homework for data structures where the
Yeah.
instructor was expecting a lot of SQLs, relational data tables, and
Yeah.
I was really bad at that, but I spent hours and hours on the logging screen on that. It was a Java Swing application,
Nice.
and I failed, kind of failed but the instructor gave me some 5 extra points for the nice UI. So
Oh,
it was
wow.
really an interest on me the work because it's easy to share your work with other people because it's the UI, so you can easily send a link, post a picture,
Hmm.
and since I really like working on it, and I really love Java surfaces, I still love it, and I really loved it back then in starting with 2005 because I really like the component model. So
Hmm.
15 years now, still you see the component model everywhere with
Yeah.
Angulars and web components. The web is now component driven. And
Hmm.
back in 2005, I really liked the idea of components. So it gave me the idea of building something. And I really like, working with people in the open source. I
I see.
meeting new people, talking to them, writing to them, online discussions, forums, and I really like that part as well, not just the code, the social part of it.
Got it.
And those, that shifted me to, this path of doing open source UI development.
Got it. I see. I see. So at that point, I don't think GitHub was as big as it is today.
I
So
don't
how
think that
did
there
you?
was a GitHub. There was SourceForge. Yeah.
SourceForge was pretty huge. Yeah, yeah. So so just get into the details of, you started as a hobby, you put it out there, and then
Yeah.
how did people sort of, start to know about this, or learn about this UI library?
Well, I posted it everywhere. I mean, there was a
Mm,
server site, the serversite.com. There was a couple of Java forums, which do not exist, I think, right now.
hmm.
I help people on Stack Overflow,
I see.
and
I
I
see.
helped them and pointed them to links on the Prime Faces. And I got into the forums and community discussions. There was no Discord and modern things that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
back then, whatever I can find, any kind of channel. Then I was also lucky because I was a committer of Apache MyFace as well. So people kind of JSF community kind of know me, and I was invited to conferences, and the conferences really helped spread the word as well. So
I see.
being a member of the JSF community, then I got invited to JSF expert group. So people really started to notice Prime Faces,
Hmm.
and actually there was some luck included as well. I really believe in luck, or whatever you call it. You may call it luck or good timing.
Hmm.
JSF 2.0 came out, and I guess it was 2009, and the well-known established libraries, Rich Faces from JBoss and Iceface from ISO, did
Yeah.
not move and migrate uh, their stuff to JSF2 easily.
I
But when
see.
I was creating Prime Faces, it was mainly targeting JSF2. So for like more than a year, Prime Faces was the only library that fully supports JSF2, and it
I see.
really shifted the people's adaptation to Prime Faces. Also, I checked their competitions libraries, and I noted down the features that they lack,
Hmm.
like a nice looking charting solution.
Yeah.
So I included them first instead of duplicating whatever they have. Then it took off. So people were looking for, let's say, charting solution, and
Hmm.
they were looking at Prime Faces, and they slowly replaced the similar features of that library with Prime Faces. So people migrated to the new library.
I see. Wow. I think there's a lot of minor points that, put together, sort of contributed to the success of your company, right? So there's like community activity. You said you were active in the community,
Yeah.
and then another thing was timing. I think you timed your sort of library perfectly in the sense that people were lagging behind, and you sort of took it one step further, and as well as you were pretty thorough on figuring out some of the like feature set, and the pinpoints around that. So did you actually sit down and figure out, okay, these are the pinpoints? Like did you just on your own sort of sat down and said, oh, I think this charting library stinks, and then I'm gonna come, like, for my render library, I'm gonna make it a little bit better? Or did you look at the forums discussions and people were complaining and you took inspiration from that?
That in actually, since I was working as a developer contractor in my day
Mm,
job, I was working on Prime Faces at nights and
mm,
weekends and
I
during
see.
commuting, right? So I was using the competitions libraries, which is the
I
excellent
see.
way to figure out the weaknesses and the powerful features as well. So it was easy for me to realize the weaknesses,
I see. I see.
so that when I get back home, I was lucky to include those features and also point them to the community the day after or then the week after release. And the
Got it.
timing, I think it's probably the most. I guess it's the most crucial.
Hmm.
Then comes the hard work and dedication.
Yeah.
Because, for example, Prime Faces we have 4 projects, right? Prime
Hmm.
Faces extremely popular in the Java community for JSF. PrimeNG is for Angular, and it's, I mean, incredibly popular for Angular community as well.
I see.
So the more or less the same features. We have the React version, PrimeReact and PrimeView,
Hmm.
but PrimeReact and PrimeView they came out after PrimeNG. So they're not as popular as PrimeNG, although their feature set is more or less similar.
Similar. I see. I
So
see.
the idea is that, for example, if I did PrimeView 2 years before, now it will probably be the most popular library, because if
I
when
see.
I check the competition, I mean, the feature set is, it's not even close, but the adoption and people's, are used to using that library.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're happy with it. It's not easy to change people's minds to
Yeah.
move from one library to another if they're happy with it.
Hmm.
So that's where the timing is important, and of course, constantly improving the library and trying to change people's minds, because it's not always the case that a framework is rewritten. For
Yeah.
example, the Angular was, Google decided to rewrite Angular
Yeah.
from Angular JS to Angular 2.
Hmm.
There, the same thing happened, the Prime NG. When I heard the news, I said, okay, this may be the history repeating itself. I did the Prime Faces 2. Now here comes Angular. And I just, work crazy, created Prime NG. And it was, people, once Angular came out, people started looking for tables and accordions and dialogues and models.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the case with React and Vue, it's not the same. They're not really rewritten, although Vue has some sort of a similar story with Vue 2 and Vue 3. But again, the timing and the hard work, I think that's what applies to my cases. I have
Yeah.
like four different cases. Each project has a different story.
Yeah, yeah, and it's very much tied to timing. And yeah, I've spoken to other folks as well who've started like companies recently, and they're like one person I was talking to, their company revolves around like plugins around Notion, and because Notion is taking off, their plugin like is getting free attraction and like free publicity around that, or marketing, you'd say. So yeah, so I agree. Yeah, totally. Timing is a very very key factor in what you're doing. So yeah, totally agree there. So when you moved from London to Turkey, at that point, did you decide, you had already decided that no, okay, PrimeTek is what I'm doing, and you've quit the job at this point, or you're still thinking about it?
Yeah, I had a really well-paying job
Hmm.
as a big financial institution.
Yeah.
I had to commute from London to Reading, for it was a totally, 3 hours commute
Mm.
total. But the payroll
It
was
was
good.
worth it.
It was worth it. But then I decided to, it wasn't my passion. I said maybe I can earn less, and maybe in the future I can, earn more thanks to
Yeah.
Prime Fees. Then I did some math. I just saved some money to pay my rent, although I had some 6 months left in the UK,
Hmm.
because my wife's were doing her master's degree, so she had 6 more months. But I had earned enough to pay the rest of the rent, because rent is really expensive in London, and
Yeah. Yeah.
some grocery shopping. So I saved that money, and
Hmm.
it was like a dream come true. I sat down and work on the project for 6 months, and then I got back to Turkey. During that time, while I was back, we had some mails and communications to some companies reaching us out to asking for professional commercial support, asking for feature development on a rate. So it
I
was,
see.
paid work was coming up. So I thought maybe, and some consulting and training as well.
Got
So
it.
it was more than enough
I see. I see.
for my lifestyle back then. And yeah, it turned out to be good. So then when I moved back to Turkey and started the company called PrimeTek.
Got it. So at that point, that's when you the cash flow was enough for you to quit your like the contracting job that you like the financial
Yeah,
contracting
for
job.
one person it was enough.
Enough. I see. I
One
see. So you
person, no kids, it was enough.
got it. Got it. So you quit the job and you figured out, okay, this is what I'm going to do. So around that time, how did you like? Were you approached, and that's how you got your first like 1 to 5 customer? Were you reaching out to people directly? How did you acquire the first 1 to 5 customers
Well,
for
in
your company?
open source, things work in a different way. You don't
Hmm.
mostly need to reach people, no sales people, or people, because they reach to you, they send an email, so you put your email on the main website if you're looking for support,
Yeah.
blah blah blah, if you're looking for custom development. So that's where people were reaching us out instead of we trying to
Reaching out
reach
to
them.
them. Got it.
So yeah, after a couple of gigs, it was but in this, in if I fast forward now, for
Hmm.
example, the new projects, Prime View, for example,
Yeah.
in this case now we are trying to do the opposite because it's a new library in the ecosystem. So
Hmm.
now we are trying to reach people. So
I see.
it
I see.
depends on the timing and the demand.
Got it. Got it. So am I correct in saying that the first few customers, like 1 to 5, 1 to 10 customers, were they reached out to you and they were like enterprisey customers because they were looking for support, they didn't have time, and they want you to do the work basically. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and still though, I mean, in 2021, still enterprise companies reach us out.
Hmm.
Uh, Even
And
today in the morning, they ask for a feature.
nice.
Yeah, they most enterprise companies, not individuals.
So how?
Actually, yeah,
Yeah. So how did they like? If not individuals, like who were contacting you? Like managers, CTOs.
mostly developers were the initial contact, and they
I
were
see.
asking for the technical questions to see if it's possible with some enterprise contracts. Then they were, forwarding that my reply to their managers.
Got it.
And we
Got it.
were in touch. We were getting in touch with the managers.
Mm,
Even I think it's still, since we are doing something for the developers, first the developers review our work, try to do some proof of concepts. If they like the stuff, they contact their managers and upper management to get some paid add-ons or contracts as well.
I see. Nice, nice. So that's basically how you bootstrap, yeah, the company. So around that time, when the cash flow is coming and you're being contacted by all these enterprise companies who are looking to get support, did around that time did you ever think that, okay, now is the point that where I expand my company, and then do I continue going down the bootstrapping route, or do I need to get external funding? And like, did you ever like
Yeah,
sit
I
down
looked
and
for funding a bit.
Mhm.
I looked for funding a bit from. I was in conferences because what we are doing is for developers. I was in
Mhm.
touch with the companies who also do libraries and frameworks and, let's say, application service for. Since I was a member of the JSR, Java specification request, I knew people from the Java ecosystem,
Right, right.
from different big
Mhm.
companies, from to the people who are involved in, let's say, Java,
Mhm.
and they were really interested in the UI as well. And I mean, in some way, it didn't work out because instead of the VC, I was trying to get sponsorship from the
Mm.
bigger companies that are involved in Java development,
I see.
like the ones they do application servers or the Spring Source back then. But they were, at some point, they decided not to proceed. So, and at that time, the number of clients are increasing. So that then I stopped looking for sponsorship. And what we do back then was enough for a couple of guys to make a living, because we don't have that much expenses, no sales team, no ads, not more
Right.
things. Back then, we didn't need that much of an investment.
I see. I see. So, like, I know for VC funding, I mean, the flow is pretty simple, where they invest into your company and then they expect a return out of that company when the company goes public, et cetera, et cetera. So, how would have sponsorship work? Like, they essentially they pay you money for sponsor, and then you sort of advertise the company.
Yeah, I mean, I think there were a couple of models. One model was, sponsoring the project and rebranding it from Prime Faces to something else.
I see. I see. I see.
So, for
Got it.
example, JBoss had an agreement with Exadel, and they were developing rich faces,
Hmm.
and it was called JBoss Rich Faces, not Exadel Rich Faces. I
Hmm.
was thinking of something like that,
I see.
but I mean, for VC funding, I talked a couple of. Actually, most of the VCs contacted us
I see.
because they see that there's some popular libraries going on, and they
Yeah,
contacted us. And I don't think. I mean, I when they contacted me, I was at a position where maybe I don't need VC involvement. Then
right.
maybe we can in the future maybe we will sell it to a buyer. But at that point, when the VCs approached us, we were not in the you know we didn't need the VC investment at that
Got
time.
it.
But if it was the beginning, I would probably say yes. But
I see. Are you glad that you didn't take VC
yes,
VC
I'm
funding?
very glad. Yeah,
Nice.
because
Yeah,
the freedom it gives me now is awesome.
yeah, yeah, I totally agree. I think I'm on the not VC camp. I've been trying to like set up ideas, companies or whatever, and I don't think I'd rather bootstrap. Even if I have to start with $5, I'd rather do that because of the freedom and the control. Like if I wanted to scrap a project, it's on me to be able to either scrap the project or continue the project. And there's no external influence on the project because I've seen examples where VCs push you in a certain direction where the founders of that product or company does not want to go in that direction, and they're sort of coerced in going a certain direction where they don't want to go, and it's just it turns into a mess, and it's not good for either the
Yeah,
company.
I
Yeah,
mean, I watched the TV series Silicon Valley that
yeah.
happened when the founder
There you
just.
go.
And in my life as well, I had a very good friend. He
Uh-huh.
had a Java library. They got VC investment. He is the
Mhm.
founder of the library. He's a very technical guy, and then he was kind of pushed out from the
Yeah,
company, and he left the company. What
yeah.
he was the founder of. So
Yeah, it's tough.
yeah,
It's
but
tough. So yeah, so I'm not a huge VC person, and like I'd rather start small $5 and build it up that way. So
maybe the right VC. You need to find the right VC that shares the same vision.
true. Yeah,
But
maybe your dad invests in your company. That's the priorities are good there. He's not gonna screw you over. So uh,
yeah, the in Hollywood, when the production company tries to apply an influence on the director, and then you
yeah,
get the director's cut, which is the
yeah,
original vision, and then you get
absolutely.
something else for
Yeah,
the
yeah.
cinemas.
No, the industry is crazy. Yeah, anything that you do is tied to like some monetary influence, and it may, yeah, it could lead to like disastrous results. Yeah. So going back to like when you're growing the company, you've acquired a few customers, you have cash flow coming in, and you've hired a few team or sorry team members. At that point, were you working mainly on improving the library? Did you ever sort of think that okay, now we're at a point that we need to grow our customer base, so basically increase cash flow, or was there something, and like was there a strategy around increasing cash flow and increasing your customers, and what was it?
Well, it was for for so many long years. I mean, it was the enterprise companies that we were the clients because we were providing professional services to them, custom feature
Hmm.
development.
Hmm.
But the number of contracts is not, it's you usually get a couple of contracts per month, and maybe in a month you don't get any.
I
So what
see.
are gonna in that case you have to sell, and support is something not everyone is interested in. If the tool does the job, then you don't need to support. But I realized that our majority of the users are also individuals and small teams, and in addition to enterprises. But we were only providing some paid stuff to a certain segment of the user base. The other part of the majority of the user base, we do not have something for them. So I think it was 2015 or something like 5 or 6 years ago. We have decided to provide some professional templates and themes. They're
Mm,
better looking, and some tools to design your own theme, and things like that that are more affordable, like starting from $20. There's a one for $50, but the enterprise contract is it's in terms of thousands of dollars for companies.
I
But
see.
it's for like $50, $10, small templates and small features, things. That's where we picked up some traction related to the cash flow, and it really helped us grow because it's led to constant cash flow.
I
So
see.
that
I see. Mm.
because we have a huge user base, I mean, we can depend on that user base purchasing templates, purchasing paid add-ons because they're really affordable. For example, we have a huge user community in South America, as you know, Brazil, Colombia, and Argentina, and they really love the prime faces, and in Brazil, for example,
Mm.
and but the in Germany it was crazy as well. Still used a lot in Germany, but the German companies were able to get professional support and enterprise contracts. But in Brazil, there were not so many because of the financial differences.
I see. I see.
But in the Brazilian community, for example, they really helped us to grow because they were able to find they were able to purchase some paid add-ons like the templates because, for example, there's a template for $20, so it wasn't that much expensive. And and this applied to other regions of the world as well. It really helped us because we didn't need to worry about the cash flow anymore in enterprise contracts this month because we had some cash flow. It was steady, and it's thankfully it still is,
Hmm.
thanks to this paid small. It's not like micro payments, but payments in smaller amounts. It really helped us providing and offering different features and different products. Really helped us grow.
I see. So I guess you did switch on the strategy on how to acquire customers, because before you were saying that you majority of the cash flow was coming in through enterprise and like these contractors around that, and now because you were looking to grow, you had to switch because it wasn't consistent and you had to come up with a different strategy. So is it a marketplace where you sell these
Yeah,
templates?
yeah. I
Oh,
mean,
okay, okay.
I also myself implemented that with Prime Faces. It's a store, online store, where you
Mm,
can go online and purchase templates.
got
I've
it.
seen that example on Envato, Team Forest. They are selling
Yeah, Team
templates.
Forest.
Uh,
Hmm. It's
uh,
such a mess though, Team
yeah,
Forest.
yeah. It's just, but I don't want to, give commission to them. So I've implemented my own store with Prime
Nice.
Faces, with my limited knowledge on backend.
Very cool. So
So
is that a steady cash flow now, or and is that the majority where the cash comes
it's
from?
the majority. We still
I see.
provide enterprise services,
Hmm.
but it's really costly for us as well because uh, we have to expand our team to fully work on support services. So
Hmm.
that because we are promising response in 4 hours, let's say, and we have to resolve the case as soon as possible. But once you sell, something like a template, a theme, you write it once and you sell it for years.
Yeah, yeah,
And the
right.
support level is, the amount of support that product needs is significantly lower than an actual support service like a call center where you have to
Right.
connect to the client's computer to resolve the case.
I see. I see.
It's really, we had to grow the team and we have to hire specific team members to
To
provide
be able
that
to.
service. But with those add-ons, it's just the support level. It's not tricky. It's not really costly. So we switched to kind of micro payments strategy rather than
Hmm.
enterprise services.
Interesting. That's really smart. I mean, it goes to show you that you have to navigate. You can't just rely on one way of
Uh,
getting your cash flow. You have to be malleable to be able to move in where the market is going. You have to move in that direction. And yeah, I think there is a lot of opportunity even around like theming. I know it's like theme forest and things like that saturated, but theme forest, I personally find it so overwhelming and it's just too much. And there is an opportunity there, but. Yeah, and like you said, I think people are capitalizing on it, like yourself. So there's definitely even right now with a lot of saturation. If you have good sort of community, there's a lot of opportunity there as well. Yeah. So getting into some of the juicy stuff. So I know when people are starting, bootstrapping their company and they're thinking about quitting. What like when you move from London to Turkey, at what point what was the cash flow around when you decided that okay $1,000 or £1,000, I don't know what how you guys sell right now, but what was your sort of tipping point where you said, you know what, at this point I'm good, I've accumulated enough that I have good runway, and the cash flow is like what I well, I don't know how, like how much was the cash flow, and what was that, rough number where you said, okay, this is a good point where I can quit my job and focus on this.
Well, it was like probably 10 years ago, so I don't really remember. But I remember that when I did the math,
Hmm.
for example, I don't really remember, but I was earning like the 5 times more than my salary back in the UK. So
I
that
see.
was, I mean, wow, 5 times. I said, well, okay, now I think it's safe to turn it off and switch to. But there were some times where it didn't go well. That because of enterprise levels agreements, they don't come up every month, so you
Yeah.
don't always feel secure. So I took
True.
that risk,
Hmm.
and at that time that was just only me and my wife with no kids, so that was a good time to take risks.
Yeah, yeah.
Now it will be much harder, so
Hmm.
that's why when I tell younger developers, younger entrepreneurs,
Hmm.
try to do it when you're younger, because it
Right.
gets tricky when you get older.
Hmm.
But when I multiply my salary by 4 or 5, and I've realized that it seems viable to continue doing that,
Hmm.
and that was a tipping point. So that
I see. But what was the, like the initial cash flow where you sort of like $1,000 a month? You said, "Oh, this is enough." I know this is 10 years ago or like 5 years ago, but just some rough like
I think 10 years ago it was $10,000, 10,000 per month
per
mostly.
month that was
Sometimes
coming in.
less, sometimes more, but it
Got it.
was like 5 times more than my probably salary back then.
Oh, this is coming from PrimeTech.
No, no, it was. I used my salary in London. I used the rates in London, and I checked out the salaries in Turkey. What
Yeah,
people
yeah.
are, at my age are getting.
Hmm.
So my career path was either I use this for to do some extra stuff like freelancing work, or make it full time.
Yeah.
I checked. I got some job offers. I calculated, the salary job offers, and I realized that I can do a couple of times more with Prime Faces. So I switched. There was no salary offer that can match what I can earn with Prime Faces. And living in Turkey really helped, because I mean, it's not my story, may not apply to other people, but uh, Turkish lira and in the United US dollars, the exchange rate really helped to
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
make a living, because even now it's $1 is eight, more than 8 liras. But back then it was, let's say, three. Even
Oh
that
wow.
was
Oh, I
good,
see. I
good,
see.
good rate.
Oh, okay. So what you're saying is like the money that you're getting from the contracts was quite a lot higher, and it helped you, like when you moved to Turkey, it was like enough to be able to manage, your household and everything.
I mean, I went to Java One conference to talk about JSF and stuff.
Hmm.
So one of our clients approached me, "Hey, we got support from you. Thank you. It's a nice support service." Blah blah blah. And I
Nice.
really like him. I still talk to him time to time.
Oh
So
wow.
it was one of my earlier contracts. So I told them, what was it, 4,000 euros, for example, back then.
Hmm. I
So
see.
he told me that if I told them, let's say, 20,000 euros, they would have said yes. So then,
Oh,
it
I
was
see.
like
I see.
if I told them the 5 times more, they were okay, because they're
They were
enterprise company. They
they
have.
don't care about the money. Well, they have enough money, so yeah, yeah. I
Then
see.
I
I see.
tried to increase the reorganized, our offers and things like that. So getting in, these face-to-face events and
Conversations.
conferences really
Mm,
help to get feedback, because other than that, you get an email, they ask for a code, you send the code, and they say yes or no. But
yeah.
once you get into face-to-face meetings, I went to a lot of trainings in Europe and United States, consulting services, where I had a better understanding of the rates and what people are paying, how much they are getting paid, and
Nice.
things like that.
Yeah, I know with especially this generation of all the social media and everything, it's they do everything through emails, text, no face-to-face communication, and yeah, it becomes difficult. Yeah, the face-to-face connection, the report that you can build, and it helps. Like it goes a long way, right? Especially in conferences where you're presenting something, and then people get to know your product, and then naturally they're going to gravitate, because if they have a need, and you're presenting and you're solving their problem, they're going to approach you afterwards. Or how, that's like free marketing, right?
Well, I have a nice story. There's a big, I don't want to give the name, but one of the biggest world's, automakers, they had a representative. Uh, I
Hmm.
I was in Sweden, I guess, or
Nice.
Austria. I'm not sure. So I was at the gig. So it was a nice event.
Yeah.
I After the conference, he approached me. We talked, and he said he came into this event just for meeting me because they were planning to use Prime Faces, and these big companies, once they invest in your in a library, they they stick to it and they use
Right.
it for more than 5 years. They cannot change it whenever a new library comes out.
Hmm.
So I made that conference and he made it, and we got in touch, and I kind of convinced him that there's some traction behind Prime Faces. The library is not going anywhere. We will constantly improve it, and still now we are still getting contracts after 5 or 6 years. They are
Hmm.
extending their contracts.
Nice.
So
Nice.
the social events really help us.
Yeah.
I know because of the pandemic, it's not easy, but the online conferences really helped us to grow.
Yeah, so I mean, for anybody who's starting now, especially with the pandemic, what advice would you give to these, people who want to hold
I mean,
meetup? Like, what should they do?
the find other channels like webinars, the YouTube channels, and live, because uh, even maybe it's easier. Now you don't need
Yeah,
to
without
travel.
traveling, I guess. Fair enough.
Back then there were no live courses, no tutorials, not just blogs, no
Hmm.
videos. And now maybe technology has moved on. Now it's maybe even easier to live webinars, free courses.
Hmm.
There are a lot of different ways
That's
right
true.
now.
That is true. Yeah, it couldn't be easier. Just get your social circle to join your Zoom meeting, and then you do a talk or whatever, and that's how people, or like solve their problem somehow, give them value, and and then the word, it starts to spread. The word, gets around, and then people will know you more. And they keep doing that. That's a rinse and repeat, right? Just to change gears a little bit, and talk a little bit more about, the current state of affairs for the company. So I know you went through, a transformation from working on, from Angular to Vue to React. So with around the JavaScript framework, or ecosystem, I would say, there's a lot of fear for anybody starting, a render library or any sort of library. There's a fear that, every day there's a new library. So how do you combat that fear, or just like, how do you combat that idea of that, we're going to be useless in 2 years? How do you stay relevant? What's the formula there? What's the strategy?
Well, I mean, it's like there's a gamble involved for sure, because you are investing. Because we are a component library vendor, we need a framework to build our components.
Hmm.
Prime Faces for Java, JSF, now Angular, React, and Vue. I mean, we checked, and lately the trend is now it's settling down. You have Angular, React,
Yeah.
and Vue. Majority of the companies. There's some new stuff coming up, but when I check their download numbers, for example, I usually use npm to
Yeah.
check their adoption,
Hmm.
and they're not really going up for 6 months, because for example people are asking, please do a prime something for that
This
framework,
framework.
and if that's not maybe not getting popular, it will be kind of waste of time for us, because
Hmm.
if there's no user community behind that framework, uh, it will be, if you add the competition, your product will be useless. So kind of safe bets, the Angular, React, and Vue. And we are doing multiple platforms. So even if, let's say, Google decides to kill Angular, we
Hmm.
still have React and Vue, and so on. So having variations really. But for example, if I didn't do Prime NG, Prime Rec, and Prime View, because I was in my comfort zone, I was
Hmm.
saying Prime Face is the only one remaining for
Hmm.
JSF, and it was the de facto standard. Everyone was using it,
Yeah.
and I kind of stopped work and I lost my passion back then. because once you
Company was
are
doing
the
well.
only one remaining with no competition, there's no challenge.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, it was a good decision to do these new libraries because JSF got old. In the new libraries, majority of the people switched to JavaScript, and if I was not doing it now, our probably we couldn't have grown this much. And it's always important to improve yourself. Try to create new products, new offers, and things like that to stay relevant.
got it. So
Otherwise, we will be dead by now, probably.
yeah, I mean, especially in the cutthroat ecosystem of JavaScript, you have to stay on top. So you said, for a new framework that people want you to like develop the library on, if it's not, if it's there's no community, you won't build it. So let me give you an example where, or let me ask you, why aren't you building for a certain framework? So I know you've built it for React, but have you also built it for React Native? No. So then
No,
my question is, okay, what's the tipping point where you say, okay, no, now is the time when, I want to build it for React Native? Is it when people keep on asking you, or you see a trend? Like, yeah, what is the strategy there?
I mean the mainly for React Native, it's the what we can do is kind of limited because at desktop we have the bigger screens, we can do a lot of templates and things, but on the mobile screen, our what we can offer is limited
I
because
see.
there's no table. I mean, our most valuable component is the table where
Yeah.
you resize, scroll, and filter. But on mobile devices, there's not much of a table. It's the list view, and we lost our value when we moved to mobile. But instead, we tried to implement our components as responsive as possible, so that on mobile web, let's say not native, they are
Mm,
responsive. But for example, there's a Svelte.js, there is the web components, there's Blazor from Microsoft.
yeah.
I'm constantly monitoring these new technologies, and being an early adapter will be, and if that library grows,
Yeah.
it will be perfect for sure.
Yeah.
For example, right now there's Blazor. If we do Prime Blazor,
Mhm.
and if the Microsoft does more investment and hopefully the library grows, you become one of the most popular libraries for Microsoft's UI technology.
Blazor is for web, or sorry, for mobile.
Blazor, no, I think it's for web,
I
and
see. I
it's
see.
based on WebAssembly, so
Got it.
the .NET runtime can run on the client side as well,
Got it.
and
Got
there's
it.
also the server mode. So
I see. I see. I
that's
see.
something that we are planning to implement. It's not super popular,
Yeah.
but
I see.
if we do it and it becomes popular, then
Then
if not, it will just be just a waste of our time. So that
yeah,
will
yeah.
be
No, agreed.
luckily.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. I mean, there's Flutter. That's those are some of the big like frameworks like Flutter, React Native. Um, but yeah, tables. I know Google Sheets. They have the web. Sorry, the native components. Or no, I actually don't know. I think they have a native app where you can go in and make changes and like view sheets. As well as like you could same React Native app could work on an iPad, on other things. So there's I guess there is that. But what would be a tipping point where you say, you know what, there is a lot of traction, or if people ask you for the library on React and people keep asking you, that's when you would maybe start thinking about it?
Yeah, and
I see.
popularity as well. But I've already created 4 libraries. So if I did the fifth one, I mean, it's not exponential. It doesn't mean that if you uh,
True, fair
that
enough.
happened with templates. For example, we are selling templates, right?
Hmm.
So we were selling one template, two, three, and it grow and grow.
Yeah.
And I thought initially, if we created 20 templates, we can multiply our revenue by 20.
20 times. Got it.
But it did not increase at all. It's not maybe not maybe it didn't even multiply. I mean, it's just it helped to make the revenue stable.
I
So
see.
if we create a new library, then
Yeah.
probably it will not help us to grow exponentially. So
Got it.
that's why I'm really interested in different. I'm trying to look from a different point of view.
Yeah.
So, for example, lately I'm interested in no-code platforms.
Yeah.
So I'm involved in one called Code 2. that we are using Prime React. So with Code 2, you can build your UI with landing pages, dashboards without writing any code.
Hmm.
It's not generated and giving to you. It just runs in the platform online. Everything is dynamic. You add columns, tables,
Oh
you
wow.
know, and of course you can who can change the logic, write some application logic, but the boilerplate stuff is done by the platform. So I'm trying, instead of creating a fifth library, I'm
Hmm.
trying to get these libraries and build something on top of them, like a no
Got
code
it.
platform or something like a form builder or something.
Yeah, yeah. Nice. I think that, yeah, that's very, very smart because with like a new library, if you keep on repeating that formula, then like maintenance is there, and then expertise. You have to hire someone. There's a lot of cost associated with just just like going in that direction. So I think that's very, very smart to be able to keep that compact. So you run as a lean machine,
Yeah,
and try like
exactly,
exploring other avenues. So with the no
exactly.
code, which like is it a React, like the framework that no code this code 2 uses is React, Vue, or
Code 2 is currently using React.
I see.
They have plans for Vue as well, but I'm not sure it's going to happen anytime soon. But
Got
it's
it.
mostly React. They were using another library after I got involved. We are integrating with Prime React. So I've seen what they've done. For example, it's the platform that they're using, and they contact us that they want a component.
Hmm.
We implemented components, provided open source, and then they also utilize it. And since it's a no code platform, you also have the backend integration, business flows, and things like that. So I really like the idea of the no code platforms
Yeah,
for freelancers, especially.
it's
And
really good.
the
Yeah.
scope of code 2 is also mainly the freelancers rather
Hmm.
than enterprise companies. The same idea of Prime as well. Instead of enterprise, it's mostly the freelancers,
Freelancers.
individual, smaller teams. And they are trying to create a platform where, as a customer, you can just log on and describe your project. A
Yeah.
freelancer gets the job,
Hmm.
implements it, and if that freelancer leaves, you can hire another one to continue, because they are using the same platform. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah, yeah,
custom code that somebody has to pick it up. It's the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
same, platform. So it's, I think there's some already existing solutions,
Hmm.
more or less similar, but the no-code platforms are, there's some demand for those right now. So that's
Yeah,
why, and UI libraries are a perfect fit for no-code platforms, so that
yeah,
you can
absolutely.
generate the UI.
Yeah, like drag and drop components basically.
Exactly,
Yeah, yeah.
because you
No,
can
it's
drop a
making
table, add, define the columns.
yeah,
From that metadata, you get the database columns, web service calls,
hmm,
backend, UI. Everything is integrated, just one drag and drop action.
yeah. Well, I mean, Webflow is very much like that, right? So no
Yeah.
code, anybody can go in and then just drag around and build a beautiful website, right? So and it's getting
Yeah.
huge traction. So
Yeah, that's why instead of the fifth library, I am trying to build some new tools
makes
on
sense.
top of the what we have.
Hmm. Nice. And then for competitive analysis, do you guys look at other libraries like Bootstrap, Tailwind? I know I've used all those. Like de facto standard is either like Tailwind, and now there are new libraries that are coming out that are even more leaner, less footprint, like memory storage, and it's a lot easier. So do you guys sit down and sort of plan and look at the competitors and see
Yeah,
what
it's
better we can
really
do?
exhausting. I mean, checking all the libraries to see what they have and what. I mean, there's, for example, some interest has shifted to CSS libraries from beginning with Bootstrap. It shifted to Tailwind has
Yeah,
really shaking things up a little bit with their utility based approach.
yeah, yeah.
It gave us the inspiration for a new product called Prime Blocks, where
Mm,
we create ready to use UI blocks. We had components like inputs, buttons, tabs, and we also have the fully featured application templates. But people purchase templates from Team Forest,
yeah,
and those guys try to sell their templates, so they put whatever they have inside those templates, and it becomes a spaghetti code.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
They get the table from somewhere, from some GitHub repo. They get some cool plugin from other, and it becomes a dependency hell. You get a dependency list this long, and when people purchase it, it became they cannot maintain it. So that's
Yeah,
why their interest shifted to something like what the Tailwind provides, like the Tailwind UI, ready
yeah.
to use smaller chunks of code that
Mm-hmm.
you can get and reuse and build your own layouts and templates.
Yeah,
That some people like it, some people hate it, but as a vendor, we don't actually care. So for the user base that likes it, we have the new Prime blocks. So
mm,
that's reusable UI blocks like pricing cards, contact forms, um, sidebar layouts, horizontal layouts, where
yeah,
people just minimalist, just
yeah. Minimalist.
more than 100 lines of code that
Yeah,
is easy to maintain.
100%
For
agree.
people who like to get some pre-made templates, we have the templates. So we are currently, always monitoring where the trends, what the trends are, what's the hype,
Mm-hmm.
and we try to get into that market as well.
I see. Nice. No, that's amazing. Yeah, I mean, being in the industry for almost 10 years now, I've gone through, the excitement of, oh, there's for, if I want a date picker, oh, just get it off the GitHub, and then you need something else, and then get it. But then you realize it becomes like you said, like spaghetti code. And now with all that experience, what I've distilled down to is like keep it simple. Just like things like Tailwind are really getting popular because of their modular approach, where or like that utility approach. You put in, you use that framework, put in like quickly create a layout, and then that becomes your sort of design system that you use over and over again.
For
Um,
example, tomorrow I plan to create a new theme for us called Tailwind Inspired Theme, because
nice.
Tailwind is more like a CSS utility library with UI blocks, but
Yeah,
it's not really a UI component library, like with date picker, with some fancy tables
yeah, yeah.
and things, some advanced stuff. That's where our value is. So that's why
Hmm.
people use the Prime libraries, because they have a built-in table with scrollable, with frozen columns, with
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Excel-like function, in-cell editing, with modal dialogues, and everything is integrated. But there are also users who like to use Tailwind with
Hmm.
Prime. So what we are going to do is that we did it for material design, we did it for
Ah, nice.
Bootstrap, we did it for Microsoft Fluent UI. With those CSS frameworks, they can still use Prime, because once we provide a compatible theme, they can get the date picker from us, and
Yeah,
they can get some menus from Tailwind or Bootstrap, and so that we can be compatible instead of competing, so
yeah,
that
yeah,
our market share or the user base can grow. Why compete?
yeah.
Instead, you can coexist.
Yeah, yeah. I think Microsoft realized this as well, and then now they shift, because it was before it was all Microsoft, .NET 4.0, everything Microsoft full stack. But then they realized if there's no like coexisting of other frameworks, it's gonna die, and then they started shifting, right? Yeah, so I think that is the way to go. Like have multiple and let the vendor decide. Don't push them in that certain direction and force them to be a certain way. Yeah, so I think that is the way to go these days for sure.
Yeah, for
So,
example, we have our own icon library, Prime Icons, but you can
oh,
use
nice.
other icon sets as well. We have Prime Flex for Tailwind like CSS, Bootstrap like grids, things like that. But it's not mandatory. Those parts are optional. So we are
Yeah,
not enforcing them. So you can still use
awesome.
Bootstrap grid, put Prime date picker inside of it. So, but some people prefer everything from a single source.
Yeah.
So that's
Mhm.
where they prefer Prime Flex. It's still, I think it's received a couple of millions of downloads as well. Although it's not, there's no business for PrimeFlex. It's fully open source, but it's
Nice.
really complements the components, because you need some utilities to place those components on your page.
No, absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. So changing gears a little bit. I was gonna ask. You're a very passionate guy. You're very involved with like the technology stuff, and you really it does come across that you really care about the technology. So what are some of the biggest challenges that you face as part of building a technology company, and then being staying relevant? Like what like one or two biggest challenges that you faced?
Well, I did a couple of mistakes as a business owner, because
Mhm.
I thought I can do everything myself to save money.
Yeah.
If I were, my 10, I would say we need something to take care of the business side, the finances. For
Yeah.
example, I try to send codes to the clients myself. I try to reply everyone
Hmm.
I gave the offers and all. I tried to do everything myself,
Yeah.
and I could have used that valuable time on other things that I
Yeah.
lost so much time on that. Now, since a couple of years, I have distributed the responsibility among the team, and I started trusting other people's work as well. Let go of egos,
Yeah. Yeah.
so that once I realized that I cannot do everything myself, it really helped me. Now I maybe work a bit less, but I produce more thanks
Yeah.
to that. It's and the finances are really important as well. I mean, uh, for example, in my country, people are excited. They start generating revenue,
Yeah.
but then they get an email from the accountant that they have to pay taxes and things like that. People get disappointed. They lose their patience. I'm earning this much revenue, and that
Yeah.
much goes to for taxes. So people needs to know beforehand what a business is,
Yeah.
how it proceeds. Maybe get a better understanding before diving into these things, because it's not for everyone. Because you can I have my friends that they work on for the same company for years and years, and they're quite happy with it. They don't want to challenge.
Yeah.
And it's not for everyone, this
Hmm.
entrepreneur, because it's too much stress as well.
It
Because
is. Yeah.
still,
Agreed.
I mean, now our company has grown. Now I have to watch for finances to make sure that the revenue cash flow is steady, so that we don't have any problems with our salaries and things like that. So there's a stressful part as well, but
100%.
the
Yeah.
advantages and disadvantages. It's not for everyone, but uh, you get used to it after some time.
Yeah. I mean, you adapt, right? And I couldn't agree more. I think I was the same way when, like, 3, 4 years ago, where it's like I want to do everything myself. Marketing, sales, and you can't do that. As a human being, you're like, I'm good at certain things and I'm not good at certain things. And now I'm okay letting certain parts go, and saying that, what, like, I can't do this because my priority is not this, and I'm not good at it. So I'll get someone and I'll pay you. And I think that also ties in with the mentality of that, if you have some cash, then you can either hire someone or pay someone to, make that problem go away. So, like, if you want to get a website done or some content creation or whatever that may be, you just pay that person, and then get that done. And you don't have to spend, because otherwise you're going to have to learn that technology, learn that skill, and then you're not going to be good at it because it takes time to perfect that skill. So it's a long road. It becomes a long road and tiresome, and then you lose hope. So I totally agree there. So you talked about the challenges, and what are some of the, like a big core learning that you experience, throughout building this company.
I mean, core learning is that adoption. I mean,
Hmm.
trying to stay relevant.
Mm.
You cannot go to your comfort zone if you're mostly business or entrepreneur. You always have to stay up to date, you know read blogs and listen to podcasts, go on Twitter to see what people are up to, because in our line of work technology constantly changes, and
Mhm.
what you offer can become easily outdated in a year. So
Yeah,
something else, there's all and something else, something new else coming up, constantly. So what I've learned, I think the biggest thing is that staying up to date constantly, keeping yourself relevant, so that you can survive and make it a sustainable business.
makes sense. And what are you most excited by, looking at the future? Like, what really excites you about your company, or that you're planning for your company?
As I mentioned, the platforms that I'm planning to build on top of these libraries, and for example, Code 2 is one example. With
Hmm.
we're working with them, so that it's a platform where you can get the whole application with one click with deployment. And so the new things that we can build on top of the libraries, maybe we can dive into the mobile devices with a smaller set of features as well, but
Hmm.
mostly platforms instead of tools and libraries. Mostly I'm interested in platforms.
Got it. Like no code, that like following, or
Yeah,
sorry,
and
going in that
maybe
direction.
some visual designers, visual team designers, and things like that. Mostly platforms.
Nice, nice. All right, so we're almost at the end of the podcast, and I always ask this question to all my guests. So, what is that? What is that one thing that your company or you personally are having trouble with that you would pay someone to make it go away or like to solve that problem? Just so that this podcast is actionable. What would be that one thing that you'd pay to go away?
Right now, it's getting the word out on the new libraries and trying to change people's minds. For example, Prime View, let's say, I think it's one of the best libraries for Vue.js right now,
Mm,
but it's underrated like PrimeTek. So we are trying a couple of things, but if someone approaches me that I can solve that problem, I can
nice.
make it even overrated. I would do it. With my eyes closed, I would do it. No hesitation.
Nice, nice. So I guess
Marketing,
marketing.
especially.
Yeah,
I mean, for developers, it's
that's a big
marketing
thing.
is something else. I mean,
That's true. That's I mean, from all the guests that has been on the podcast, that's a one theme that I've noticed that developers we're not good at marketing,
I
but I
don't
mean
like
we
it.
can
I mean,
yeah, but it's a common trend that I've noticed that marketing like they want to they want to market the product. It seems to be a common thing. So
yeah, I mean, I
um,
was thinking Prime Faces didn't have any marketing and it got popular. Prime
mm,
AG didn't have any marketing, it got
hmm
popular. And why is not happening the same for Prime and Prime React? So
yeah,
this I don't understand. They're
interesting.
still underrated.
Hmm
So that's why I'm tackling, and maybe we will, probably hire maybe a DevRel or some marketing
Person,
people
yeah,
to to see how it goes. Maybe we'll try for maybe it will be some freelance work to see what we invest and what we get back after 6 months, for example.
got
And
it.
yeah, that's something I would do definitely, and probably will do soon.
Nice. Nice. Thank you so much for
Thank you,
coming
Alex.
on board and talking to me. It was a pleasure, Chatai. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. You too.
And yeah, and that's pretty much it. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Bye bye.